My sister made a video turning me into the villain. I stayed calm, gathered proof, and let the truth bring consequences she did not expect. I used to think the worst thing was being ignored at the dinner table. Then my sister posted a TikTok accusing me of abuse, tagged my full name, our house and the school where I teach. It blew up overnight. Some of my own students liked the post. My mom said I was overreacting. I didn't scream. I didn't lash out. I opened my laptop, sent the video to my lawyer, and started flipping the game they thought they'd already won. Hey Reddit, have you ever lived in a place where you paid half of the bills but were treated like a freeloader? Yes, it has been my life for the last few years. I'm a 23-year-old male full-time high school teacher who is still stuck at home. Not by choice, but because rent is a fraud, and my family has the emotional maturity of a group chat meltdown. The worst part is that my 17-year-old sister acts as if she runs the place. She's coddled like royalty, calls me every insult she can find online, and my mother dismisses it as harmless teenage sarcasm. So, I stopped playing along. When I finally turned the script, let's just say the golden child and her hype woman didn't take reality well. I work full-time as a high school teacher and continue to live at home. Not by choice, but because rent is a joke and my father's income alone cannot pay everything, I divide the costs with him. It is manageable. Or it was bearable until my sister declared me the corporeal embodiment of Reddit's worst stereotypes. Do you know how every family has one child that can do no wrong? Yes, that is her, the golden child. Our parents treat her like she's a genius, since she once watched a video about sea turtles and is now the brightest person in the family. Meanwhile, I'm over here working full-time, paying half of the mortgage, and getting dubbed an incel for playing a game after work. I wish I had exaggerated. I really do. One day, I came home from work completely exhausted from breaking up a fight between two hormonal freshmen. Sit down to relax with my Switch, and within 30 seconds I hear, "Wow, classic incel behavior from the couch." She doesn't even glance up from her phone, as if it's a reflex now. At first I assumed she had heard that word online and had no idea what it meant. So I asked her directly, "Do you even know what an incel is?" She looked me full in the eye and answered, "Yeah. You." With a smug little smirk. As if she had just dropped a nuclear truth bomb. It wasn't hilarious. It was just foolish and noisy. The difficulty is that she worked out how to get the word to me. So now she uses it as if it were my freaking moniker. Watching anime, incel. Wearing headphones, incel. Making noodles, only an incel would use so much garlic powder. It's like living with a Twitter comment section. And mom. Oh, mom is living in her own fantasy land. Her daughter is a sweet, misunderstood angel, and her son has a harsh, anti-social neckbeard that needs to be lightened. Every time I bring up my sister's conduct, I get told that she is just expressing herself or that it is a phase because she is 17. Or, my personal fave, don't be so sensitive, okay? Because having your younger sister rip your headphones off mid-game just to call you a virgin loser Discord mod in front of your friend on Discord is just normal teen girl behavior. I attempted to rant to mom about it, telling her how humiliating and frustrating it was becoming. She interrupted me midway and said, "You need to learn to take a joke. You're the adult here." Cool. I guess being an adult now means I'm the designated doormat. Dad is different. Kind of. He does not truly take sides. Most days he just tunes everything out and goes to work. I don't blame him for working all the time. With my sister's turmoil and my mother acting like a backstage pageant parent, I'd work more hours too. But the bias is apparent as day. My sister could come home with a D in math, and my mother would say she's simply not a numbers person. I scored a B+ in college, and she wonders why I'm slipping. Sis accidentally dented my car bumper once, and mom told me I should have parked better. She once snatched my favorite hoodie without asking and spilled juice on it. Mom's response, "You should not leave your belongings around." Lady, it was inside my closet. I tried the ignoring method. You know the old adage, don't feed the trolls, but that only made her worse. I'd be minding my own business, marking papers, when she'd pass by and flick the back of my neck to get me to respond. If I didn't answer, she'd add, "Wow, incel and mute. You're leveling up." This is the same person that cried for 2 days because someone didn't like her Instagram story, but she can treat me like dirt since it's only teasing. So, I work all day, pay half the house bills, cover extra expenses like groceries as needed, and then come home to be treated like a walking Reddit insult compilation. I tried talking to her. I tried talking to mom. I've even tried keeping my distance. Nothing works. The golden child receives a free pass every time. She might slap me in the face with a fish, and my mother would most likely remark, Well, he must have provoked her. At this point, I'm simply tired. I work with teenagers all day at school. I shouldn't have to come home and deal with someone who has no accountability for her behavior. And the fact that I'm supporting a portion of her lifestyle only makes things worse. But now I'm really done playing along. If things don't change soon, I'm leaving. I've previously looked at a few rental listings. I am not going to continue sponsoring her private technology collection only to be her personal punching bag. Not in this economy. Not when I could find quiet and Wi-Fi elsewhere. Let's see how wonderful she feels once I'm gone. And her free ride vanishes alongside me. That was my final thought before leaving my room and discovering her slouched on the living room couch, double-chinned and dead-eyed, watching some rubbish reality show on her iPad. I helped pay for the same iPad during Black Friday because she needed it for school. Apparently school entails watching other spoiled brats have tantrums over iced coffee and Instagram posts. She looked up, saw me, and without missing a beat exclaimed, "There goes the Discord mod." I didn't flinch, just stared at her. I was already done. Mom also heard it. She was in the kitchen, humming like a Disney musical, cutting strawberries for a smoothie. She was probably going to feed my sister like a young bird. I waited. Nothing. Not even, "Hey, don't call your brother names." I stepped in. "You're really okay with her bratty spoiled attitude?" Mom looked at me, blinking as if I had interrupted her Oscar-nominated performance, and added, "You're the older one. Be the mature example." Oh right, because adulthood entails allowing your teenage sister to transform your existence into her favorite insult. So I said it out. I told them both in no uncertain terms that if this continued, I would leave. I told Mom I'm not a backup parent, a walking ATM, or an emotional sponge just because she won't deal with her daughter's bad conduct. I assumed she'd panic. Perhaps even pretend to care. Instead, she tilted her head, as if I were the ungrateful one, and said, "So you're just going to abandon your family?" "Abandon, lady? I pay half the bills. She hasn't paid for anything in the house since Netflix cost $7.99. My sister smiled as if she had just witnessed a villain's origin story in real time. She literally grabbed her phone, typed something, and giggled. I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up as an anonymous toxic brother narrative on her closed Instagram account. The saddest part is, she truly believes she is famous. She has about 150 followers and goes around the home like Megan Fox. The way she struts in her mismatched socks and 5 pounds of lip gloss, you'd think she was on her way to a red carpet rather than the cupboard for hot Cheetos. Later that night, I discovered her in the dining room, attempting to record one of those POV, "My incel brother is upset again" recordings. I stepped in while she pretended to cry in front of the camera, with some somber piano music playing. She yelped, dropped her phone and exclaimed, "You ruined my content." "Yeah, sorry for ruining your Oscar audition, kid. My bad for living in the house I helped pay for." Mom rushed in as if someone had been stabbed. She sees me standing there with my arms crossed and immediately goes into defense mode. "Why are you always picking on her?" I had to laugh. Like a full-on laugh. She is making bogus videos crying about me, and I am picking on her. Mom did not even flinch. She is expressing herself. Perhaps if you were friendlier, she wouldn't need to rant online. I couldn't believe what I heard. Could not. I told her straight up. If she posts something with my name in it, I'm reporting it. Don't test me. Mom gasped. Like if I'd just kicked the family dog. You wouldn't hurt your own sister in that way. Ma'am, she's been verbally nuking me for weeks and I haven't raised my voice once. But yeah, I am the threat. By the way, I'd want to mention something. Our home isn't a mansion. It's a basic 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom suburban home. You can hear everything from the walls. So, when she starts blaring TikTok videos with artificial voiceovers criticizing Gundam builders, I hear every word. She even taped a post-it note on my door once that read, "Virgin Cave. Enter at your own risk." I pulled it off. The following day, there were 3 more. I informed my father about it when he got home that night. I could tell he was trying not to get involved, but he groaned and rubbed his temples as if he had just discovered he had forgotten his umbrella. "And it is pouring." He advised me, "Try not to take it personally. She's just being a kid." Number kids draw on walls and fail to do their schoolwork. This one is conducting a full-fledged humiliation campaign. I told him that I'm not just a gloomy brother upset over name-calling. I'm an adult guy who works full-time and contributes to this home, but I'm being mistreated in my own room, in front of guests, and online. He did not protest, simply nodded. Quiet, as if he knew I was correct but didn't want to admit it yet. Meanwhile, Mom is completely lost in La La Land. Later that night, she sits me down, as if to offer me a life lesson, and says, "You need to understand her. Her generation is different. She's sensitive, artistic, and emotionally intelligent." Emotionally intelligent. She placed a sock into my cereal box the other day and said it was a prank. When I asked what part of it was intellectual, she fell silent and murmured something about how I never encouraged her creativity. I stood up in mid-sentence and went out. I didn't smash the door or shout. I had hardly left the room when my brain short-circuited from the foolishness. From that night forward, I stopped speaking with both of them unless it was about bills or genuine logistics. If I returned home and found her in the living room, I went to my room. If my mother tried to guilt-trip me, I would respond with a cool anecdote and walk away. It got worse the moment I stopped reacting and playing in their strange little family theater. But, here's the deal. What should I do? Fight a 17-year-old, curse her out, or throw something back? Bro, that would make me look insane. She's still a minor, and I'm a grown man with a career that requires a good reputation. She wants a reaction, and I'm not going to give it to her just to make a point. I'm not going to play tug of war with someone who's still doing TikTok dances in the kitchen at midnight while mom dismisses her bratty behavior as a phase. This was not a phase, this was wartime. And I'd had enough of fighting conflicts with individuals who needed me more than they did. So the next morning, I didn't speak to anyone. I just woke up early, made some coffee, and sat at the table, reading through rental postings. I bookmarked 3. Nothing extravagant, just peaceful and far enough away that I didn't hear incel every time I exhaled. Dad entered the kitchen mid-scroll. He seemed tireder than usual. I did not squander time. I told him straight. I'm moving out. Nor bluffing, nor attempting to intimidate people. Just a heads up before I load a box. He did not argue this time. No sighing. No. She's only young. He simply sat down, nodded once and stated, "I get it." I informed him that I wasn't leaving to be theatrical. I was leaving because walking through the door made me feel like a punching bag with a Wi-Fi password. He looked down at his cup and then back at me. "You've been paying for all of her stuff, haven't you?" "Yeah," I replied. "Every bit of it. Laptop, switch, her phone upgrade, her desk. I didn't mind before but now nah." He switched silently, but you could feel it. He stood up, walked directly to her room, and did not even knock. Simply opened the door and said, "Get up." She was still asleep in bed, as if she had never worked a day in her life. When she saw her father was holding a cardboard box, she sat up like a meerkat. "What are you doing?" she inquired. He didn't respond. He simply unplugged her desktop tower, bundled the cords, and slipped it into the box. Calm, efficient, and no screaming. "Dad, that's mine." "Nope," he replied. "Your brother bought it." I overheard her toss a slipper at the wall. He stole the switch next, then the laptop, and finally the Bluetooth keyboard. When she attempted to grab one back, he grabbed her hand and said, "You want these? Buy them yourself." Mom ran in as if someone had phoned 911. "What is going on in here? He's taking my stuff." My sister screamed, clutching her pet penguin like it was her last shred of dignity. "No," Dad replied. "I'm stealing his belongings." Mom stepped in his path like a linebacker, arms extended. "She needs them for school." "She needs a reality check," he responded. "He is moving out. I'm not going to let her continue to enjoy the perks while treating him like garbage." "She's a child, Ethan," Mom yelled. "You're hurting her mental health." He did not even blink. "She's 17, not 5. She is old enough to know better." And now my sister was on the floor, screaming and moaning, as if this was abuse and I couldn't live. Pretty bold words for someone who still has her clothing folded for her. Dad walked past them both and handed me the box without speaking. The room was completely silent save for her sobbing. I did not say anything either. I wasn't going to brag or rub it in. That would have made me just like her. Mom followed me into the hallway, angry. "You really think this solves anything?" "No," was my reply. "But at least I don't have to keep funding the person calling me names every day." She scoffed. "You're so dramatic. She's a kid. You're acting like you're the victim." I merely smiled and said, "Well, newsflash. I am." I brought the box to my room, locked the door, dumped it next to my closet, and resumed sitting at my desk as if nothing had occurred. 10 minutes later I heard my sister slam the bedroom door. Then something heavy struck the wall. Probably her pillow, or whatever statement she was attempting to make this time. Later that night, I had takeout and ate in my room. I didn't feel like sharing a table with anyone. While viewing YouTube, I heard footsteps outside my door. Then something thudded into it. Soft, but with purpose. I opened it. A pair of rolled-up socks sat on the floor. No note, just a passive hostile sock delivery. I did not even react. I just stepped over it and closed the door again. By the time I fell asleep, I had blocked my sister on every app I could think of. If she wanted to continue being a danger, she could do so without my attention. Dad knocked once before bed. Said, "I meant what I said. Let me know if you find a place. I'll cover the first 2 months." I told him he didn't need to, but he insisted. I should have stopped this sooner. I did not argue. He was correct. The next morning I relocated half of my belongings to a friend's house across town in preparation for my full move-in with him the following week. I told him it was only temporary, until I could get my own space. When I returned to get more clothes, Mom hardly looked at me, didn't say anything, didn't blink, and just continued peeling. My sister was not in sight, but I could hear muffled sobs through the wall. For once, I did not feel guilty. They didn't cry because they missed me. They were in tears because they had finally lost the ATM with a pulse. Only 2 days after I had transferred half of my belongings, everything began to fall apart at home. My sister couldn't access her Spotify. She panicked out. Apparently, losing ad-free Ariana Grande was the last straw. She tore across the home like someone had turned off her air. Dad did not react. He just sat there sipping his coffee while she slammed drawers and shouted about her freedom being taken away. I wasn't even home to witness it, but I learned about it later that night when she began ranting in the family group chats. Initially, it was subtle. "I can't believe how nasty some individuals get after they move out." Then it became bolder. She dropped my name and stated that I was mentally unstable and prone to violent outbursts. I said I'd always despised women. She even wrote me a message stating, "If anything happens to me, just know who to blame." As if I were a villain in a teen drama. All of the signals were vague enough to avoid direct accountability while still being evident enough for extended family to connect the dots. My uncle messaged me separately. "Hey man, everything okay? I don't know what to say. What do you reply when your teenage sister launches a PR smear campaign on WhatsApp?" My cousin sent me screenshots. That's the way I saw it. Full paragraphs describing how I'd always belittled her, and how living with a narcissistic sibling made her anxious. She even tried to make it sound like I was a sexist who couldn't stand strong women. The poor are empowered. This is the same individual who once stated that she shouldn't have to take out the trash since it's not visually appealing. I did not respond. Let them type. I knew whatever I said would be distorted, clipped, and circulated like gossip currency. Mom, of course, weighed in on her behalf. She wasn't simply enabling it. She was part of it. In the thread she called me frigid and said, "I forgot where I came from." She also added the usual, "He's changed since getting that job." Yeah, I changed. I stopped letting a teenager run my blood pressure into the stratosphere. Meanwhile, Dad remained mute throughout the conversations. Did not like or respond to anything. That was the most revealing portion. He only sent one message in our private texts. "Do not let them get into your brain. I see what's actually going on." Still, it felt like people were rewriting my life in real time. And they were not strangers. They were family. People I grew up seeing on holidays. They were now sitting about, reading my sister's fanfiction as if it was gospel. Back in the house, the mayhem continued. I stopped by to get the last bin of my belongings. I walked in and stayed quiet. She did not scream this time. She simply hovered nearby, watching like a little creep. When I went into the kitchen, she accidentally spilled orange juice over the counter. No apology, no towel, simply walked away smirking. Mom was in the living room pretending to read a book, but I could tell she'd been watching the entire time. She didn't say anything, but gave me that look of, "What have you done to this family?" As if I were the problem. I carried the bin into my car and prepared to go. Dad stopped me at the main door. He told me he changed the lock on the garage after she tried to sneak back in to get the laptop I had taken back. He seemed exhausted. Said he was thinking of putting a padlock on it just in case. That was how far it had gone. The man guarded the garage as if it were Area 51. He told me that my sister had also tried to guilt him. He claimed he was letting the patriarchy triumph by standing with me, whatever that means. Mom, meanwhile, remained cold. He did not speak to me once. I went without saying goodbye. Not because I was upset, but because I had nothing else to say. Back at my friend's house, I felt like I could finally breathe. He had cleared off a portion of his closet for me and given me an extra key. The first thing I did was check the group chat again. New messages. This time, my sister said she had evidence of my violent behavior and was considering going public. Okay, let her talk. That was my final thought before I turned my phone to quiet and placed it face down on my desk. I didn't have to defend myself in group chats anymore. Allow them to believe what they want. I was not going to dispute with those who believe rumor qualifies as evidence. The peace lasted less than 12 hours. The next morning I received 3 missed calls from a coworker. Then a text. Hey, you should see this. It is about you. I attached a TikTok video. It did not take long to load. My sister had shared a full-blown slideshow video, dramatic music, slow transitions and everything. It all started with a fuzzy photograph of me smiling and holding a dish of food during a family gathering. The photograph was then accompanied by a white text caption that read, "Living with emotional abuse." The following shot showed me playing guitar at a Christmas celebration. He yelled, "He threatens, he has control." Then one from my graduation, "I live in fear." Finally, she shared a video of our house's exterior, including the front lawn and mailbox, and named our high school in the comment. She mentioned my complete name. The caption said, "I don't feel safe. Not all abusers leave bruises. Pray for me." I watched it again. Not because I couldn't believe it, but because I wanted to make sure I remembered everything. Her account was public. Her follower count had increased since I last checked. Comments poured in. People were tagging each other and saying things like, "He needs to be arrested," and "File a report ASAP." There were classmates from her school there. A couple even stated they'd always had negative feelings about me. The worst part was that several of my own pupils loved the post. I did not panic. I did not hurl anything, yell, or pace. I took a big breath, stepped up and began working on what I had previously warned her about. I was planning to report it first. I took screenshots of everything, every frame, comment, and username. I copied the video link, preserved the audio, and backed up the post with a screen recording. I emailed it all to myself. Then I sent everything to my lawyer. When the group chat started, I had already been in contact with him for several weeks. This was the type of evidence he was looking for. Following that, I contacted the principal. I didn't want them to learn about it from anyone else. I described the situation gently and attached the video. By midday, I was seated in the high school's front office, explaining the situation again in person. To their credit, they did not accuse me of anything. The administrative personnel was professional. They claimed I handled it perfectly. They advised me not to interact with her online or offline. Simply let the legal team take charge. By the end of the day, my sister was summoned to a disciplinary conference with the dean of her grade level. According to someone who witnessed it, she cried the moment she walked in, claiming I was attempting to ruin her future because she was more famous. The school immediately suspended her. 2 weeks is a minimum. All student groups had their social media credentials terminated. Academic probation. Parents were alerted. That's when the second meltdown began, the one in the house. My phone lit up with texts from my mother. "You didn't have to go this far. She's only a child. You have devastated our family. You've always been jealous of her. How dare you involve attorneys in this?" I didn't respond. Not a single word. She sent frantic voicemails, some crying, others cursing, begging, threatening, and guilt-tripping. She went through each manipulation style as if she were speedrunning a treatment diagnosis. Then she showed up at school. Not kidding. She really marched into the main office the next morning and requested to meet with the principal. She claimed the school was targeting her daughter, that the charges were misunderstanding jokes, and that I was using my profession to intimidate the family. Security had to walk her out because she refused to leave. Apparently on her way out she grabbed a stack of flyers off the table and threw one on the floor, saying that she too would be hiring a lawyer. I only discovered out after the secretary wrote me and said, "Let us know if she comes to your apartment. We'll write an incident report." I didn't even bother questioning why they expected she would. They were probably correct. Meanwhile, my sister's post was removed by TikTok. Not because she removed it, but because my lawyer filed a DMCA takedown and slander complaint. It was recognized as harmful misinformation and taken down within 24 hours. On the same day, the cease and desist letter came at the house. My lawyer ensured that it was directed directly to my mother, as her guardian. The wording was clean. No threats, only a stern warning that if another defamatory post became public, we would seek full civil penalties. I never witnessed the real reaction, but Dad told me what happened. She tossed the letter across the room, yelled, "I'm suing a baby," and locked herself in the bathroom for an hour. My sister supposedly called my aunt and told her that I was legally bullying her and that he was going to jail me for just being. A few family members contacted me again. This time the tone altered. A cousin messaged me. I didn't realize it had become so awful. She truly tagged the school. Yes, she did. The tide was turning. That night I had dinner with a friend. I told him everything. He just nodded and continued. I think she forgot you weren't playing the same game. I slept better that night than I had in months, but the aftermath was far from over. My lawyer contacted the next morning to inform me that we had a hearing scheduled with the Juvenile Mediation Court. Nothing unlawful, just ordinary process, a formal response to cyberbullying. We would submit the evidence. She would be compelled to attend beside my mother. If she didn't, the school might take it to the board. I thanked him, then hung up and gazed out the window. My phone vibrated again. Another cousin. She claims you're attempting to wreck her future out of vengeance. I did not respond. Instead, I opened my laptop, looked at my calendar, and marked the court date. Funny thing is, I haven't even begun yet. That was the notion that sat calmly in the back of my mind while everything around them began to fall apart, and I didn't even have to move a finger. By the time the court notification arrived at the house, the harm had been done. The school had already imposed the suspension. Her TikTok account was still disabled. Every classmate who reshared her video received a temporary ban from school activities. Some people unfollowed her. When a story fails to make sense, word spreads quickly. Apparently my sister sought to change the script at school, claiming she was simply promoting awareness. However, no one bought it, especially as screenshots began to circulate. Her captions tagged the school and accused me of abuse by name. She was now strolling down the halls with her head down. Even her typical followers refused to sit with her at lunch. One teacher overheard her murmuring that she hadn't intended for things to blow out like that. Too late. The court session was not even a complete trial, but rather mediation. Standard for resolving juvenile civil disputes. Still, she had to appear in person with my mother. A real judge, authentic documents, no filters, and no dramatic background music. My lawyer claimed she had her head down the entire time. Mom, on the other hand, refused to shut up. She complained about how the whole thing was a witch hunt and that I was targeting a youngster out of malice. The judge reminded her that her daughter was 17, not a helpless toddler, and that falsely accusing someone of abuse at their workplace was not covered by teenage drama. They were obliged to sign a legal agreement to delete all public information on me and prevent further contact. Any violation will result in civil court proceedings and substantial consequences. This should have been the end of it. Of course it wasn't. 2 days later, the building security called me. Said there was a woman banging on the lobby door, pleading to be let in. She claimed she was merely trying to chat to her son. I knew who it was. I didn't go down. Instead, I let her wait there until the security guy told her to leave. She cried on the sidewalk for a time, sitting on a bench, as if someone had abandoned her. Eventually, she departed. I didn't say anything. An hour later, she wrote me a 6-paragraph email via an old Gmail account I had forgotten I had. She called me heartless, said I emotionally harmed my sister, said she tears every night, that I should have just taken the high road and not ruined their lives over some online drama. She closed with, "You're not the son I raised." No argument there. That weekend my father came by with pizza. He sat down at my small kitchen table, looking 10 years younger. He said he no longer slept well at home. Said that the silence in the house was not peaceful. It was weird, like they were wandering around pretending the walls weren't closing in. Then came the letter. Monday morning I checked my mailbox and discovered a plain letter with no name. Inside was a wrinkled notebook sheet with sharp, irregular pen strokes. My sister's handwriting. She asked me not to press charges, not because she was sorry, but because things were already bad enough. Still no apology, just a guilt trip couched in victim terminology. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. I hadn't planned on suing her for money. This was not about vengeance. This was about shutting it down and making sure she understood she couldn't keep running her mouth and hiding behind the term teenager forever. But then, a couple nights later, Dad gave me a heads up. They're on their way to your house again. I told them not to, but your mother insisted. This time, she got back up. I instructed the security guy to let them in this time. My companion was out, and I was just wondering what they had to say. I'd saw them seated on the hallway floor via the peephole before they knocked. Mom held one of those dollar store food containers in her lap. Something handmade and sad-looking. Sister was slumped over, arms around her legs, not crying or talking, just sitting there. I opened the door. No words, no expressions. Simply moved aside and walked back in. They followed me in carefully, as if they weren't sure if they were allowed inside, or if I might change my mind. I sat at the kitchen table. They stood for a second before nervously taking the seats across from me. Nobody touched the food. My sister fixed her gaze on the floor. Mom kept staring at me like she was trying to figure out which version of me she was dealing with. The one who used to repair their Wi-Fi and pay for groceries, or the one who took them to court and shut everything down. Mom broke the silence first. "You seem exhausted." I didn't respond. She tried again. "We did not come to fight." Still no word from me. She eventually began rambling, explaining how things had gotten out of hand. How my sister was simply venting. How everything escalated faster than they thought. The words sorry and wrong never appeared. Many of us were emotional, and you misinterpreted. She claimed they hadn't been sleeping. That my sister was in a poor place and under a lot of pressure from social media. She even tried to connect it to when I was cranky in college. I just sat there and let her speak, allowing the guilt trip to take its full course. When she hesitated, I looked to my sister. "Do you have something to say?" She looked up slowly, her eyes red and her makeup smudged. Clearly not used to losing anything. She murmured, "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was just mad." That was it. I waited for more, some accountability. Anything that sounded like a genuine apology, but no. She looked at me as if I was meant to say it was fine and give her a redemption arc. Instead, I reclined back in my chair. "You attempted to damage my job. You told everyone that I abused you. You've made it public. And now when there are consequences, you're upset it didn't go your way." "I didn't think they'd take it seriously," she explained. "It was only TikTok." "Really? Did you tag my school and use my name?" "That is not a joke. That is a hit piece." Mom reached across the table with the container. "We prepared lasagna. Your fave." I stared at it. "Cool. Leave it at the garbage can on your way out." Her face twitched. That moment when she discovered the sympathy card was full. I stood up and moved towards the door. They did not follow right away. Mom appeared to be attempting to come up with one final monologue. Sister just sat there, looking like she was ready to get grounded. "You came here hoping I'd let this go," I replied plainly. "You believed that if you cried enough, provided food and played the victim, it would erase what had happened." Mom opened her mouth. I shut her off. "I'm not angry anymore. I am done. You asked me to listen. I did. But don't confuse this for a reset." They stood. No embraces. No phony smiles. Just stillness. Mom took one last look back as they walked out. Her voice crackled. "Are you really cutting us off?" "No, I'm just making it official," I replied. "I'm just done being the one getting cut." I closed the door, locked it, and stood there for a second, listening to their footsteps recede down the corridor. Dad called later that night, saying he was staying with his brother for a while, and said he was proud of me for not giving up, even when they tried guilt-tripping. I asked whether he was okay. He honestly stated that it was the first time he had felt sane in some months. We didn't chat for very long because there was no need to. For the first time in years, I wasn't holding my breath, waiting for the next insult, guilt trip, or faux apology. For once I had silence, while others had to sit with the ruckus they made.